All right, in the last module, we talked about the doghouse. This is another one of my favorites, not quite as favorite as the doghouse, but it's definitely one of them. It is the morning ritual. It is what are going to design to help you wake up to, get excited for, and really explain the difference between what a ritual is and what a routine is. It's all about making life sacred. So let's go ahead and dive into it. It's juicy just as the last one. We are going to focus on creating a sacred morning ritual for you. Now, this ritual doesn't have to be long. It could be just about 5 to 15 minutes. The point is, again, to have it be a playlist of inspiring songs or books. It's to also hold vision for your day, week, month, and year. To get moving, to exercise, walk, work out, and possibly to even journal. We get to throw some different things in here that you want to throw in here, but the main point of this is to make it sacred. Sacred really just means connected. So it could be connected with God, it could be connected with Source. What I want you to focus on is being connected to your life force, wherever you believe that it comes from. So in this sacred ritual, the focus is to make sure that you are holding a deep connection within your being, so that you are making sure that you're showing up for you every day. The point of doing this is to make sure that you are keeping your body in a balanced mode. The reality is that you are consistently creating your reality based upon your feelings and the vibrations, the frequency that your system is running off of. So we want to make sure that you are handling your triggers and that you are regulating your frequencies or your emotions throughout the day so that you're not having these big hills and valleys throughout your experience. So before we get into creating this, I want to make sure that we really distinguish the difference between habit, routine, and ritual. Habit is a do. It's reactionary. It typically stems from an urge or a cue that is often triggered and is automatic until it's regularly developed. So, for instance, would be getting a coffee at Starbucks. That eventually becomes a habit. You had an urge. After so many urges, you're going to create a habit out of it. Then you have routine. Routine is based in have and it's deliberate. So it is disciplined action taken willfully to establish a desired result, usually affecting consistency, order, and stability. So you're going to have these things if you do these deliberate actions, such as wake up and make your bed, take a shower. You're going to have a clean body. You're going to have a neat house, things like that. Ritual, on the other hand, is of the be sense. So it's intentional. It is a mindful practice that holds and reaffirms a sense of meaning or purpose for life. These rituals are typically precise in delivery and ceremonial in nature. And ceremonial really just means that it's in celebration of. When we're designing this, we really want to focus on it being in celebration of you every morning that you wake. Where we're going to start with this ritual is we're actually going to start by really getting in alignment with your dreams. So your first assignment is I want you to look at your life and I want you to look at all the things you don't want about it and I want you to write them all down. I want you to get into the emotions you don't want, the people in your life maybe you don't want, the circumstances, materials, career, finances, etc. And then from that I don't want list, I want you to take it exactly opposite and then write down the things that you must want if these are the things you don't want. So if I don't want depression and sadness and doubt in my life, then I would like to have joy and happiness and love. Or if I don't want certain people, then these are the people I do want. If I don't want circumstances, then these are the circumstances I would like. So I really want you to first go through what you don't want. It's so much easier for us to actually figure out the things we don't want in life, but that is a very useful tool for figuring out what we do want. What we're doing with this information is creating a vision. Because when we get into the morning routine, then I'm going to want you to hold this vision that you're creating that you do want. And in order to hold that creation or that vision, we need to know what it is that you're creating and calling into your life. And from there, we're going to really focus on what that looks like and therefore what that feels like. Because what that feels like is what's going to be running the show of actually attracting that into your life. What does it feel like to have these circumstances here? What does it feel like to have these people around? When manifesting, it is important that we have a very substantial amount of trust, faith, or in other words, a deep knowing. A deep knowing that if we stay focused, then it cannot not happen. Meaning that if we stay focused, it for sure will happen because we're constantly focusing on that vision to start coming into our lives via our vision, our feeling, and receiving. Now, to visualize this, the power really comes with doing it as often as you can for as long as you can. But really, you only need a minimum of 17 seconds to 68 seconds to really hold the vision of whatever it is that you're really asking for in your life. You want to use all your senses when you visualize this. So you want to kind of just sit within yourself and really focus on what it is you would see, smell, taste, hear, touch, and feel if life were this way now. So you have to put your moment into that, put yourself into that moment now, as though it's happening now. You don't have to act like it's happening now. Like if you want $1 million, it doesn't mean go spend and act like you have $1 million. It means feel it now. Really think and hold that vision of what it is you want. When you feel, you want to acknowledge what you're currently going through, but then you want to also amplify the emotions that are arising from this vision. And if we've worked your vision correctly, then you should only be feeling really positive emotions. If you're feeling any tension in your system still, then that means that there is some sort of remaining uncertainty when you were discerning what you wanted or did not want. And so we have to go back to the I don't want and I want to make sure that we're really, really clear on what we're focusing on. The next step in manifesting is to receive. Now, a lot of people think that this means receive whatever it is you're asking for, but it doesn't work that way. It's actually about receiving the next step to get you to what you want fastest. So it's kind of like, think of like Google Maps. Like, hey, do you want to take the quickest way or do you want the scenic route? So when we're holding this vision, we really want to listen for the next step. If the next step is turn left, we got to go that way. So you have to listen and receive the actions that are being asked of you to take. You need to write these down as you get them. And then you need to receive the steps that you're being asked to act on without necessarily putting them into a plan. So you're just going to kind of write these things down so that we can organize them later, but it's to keep you away from actually trying to control it too much. Because sometimes when we're controlling it too much, then it can actually prolong the process as well. For instance, if you're, again, driving down the road and you're trying to control everything so much that you actually miss the turn. All right, like I said at the beginning of this, that there's habit, routine, and ritual. Most people operate out of habit. They begin their day that way. They set their alarm and then they hit the snooze button, or they sleep in, or they jump right out of bed, but it's like, rah, shock to the system, things like that. Some people, of course, have actually developed a routine. And a lot of times it's this very empowering routine where they're really ready to take on the world. However, sometimes this can also lead to burnout, and when they get burned out, they don't always necessarily know why. Few people ever really create a morning ritual. Thus, they rarely function from a full cup of health, wealth, and love. If they do create a ritual, then a lot of times these 3 steps are still taken in this order. They wake up out of habit, they do their routine of making their bed, and then maybe they go and do some ritualistic thing like yoga or whatever. We actually want to kind of flip this. So again, instead of having the habit of do and the routine of having and then the final action of being, we want to flip this where we want to actually start with be and then have and then do. So we want to be really centered in ourselves. And we're going to start this be by making sure that we have a playlist. The point of the playlist is to actually get you to wake up still relaxed. Not necessarily so relaxed that you want to fall back asleep, but relaxed enough that you're starting to steady your system. Then we want to take you into a release period where you're going to be able to actually release any other resistant tensions, feelings, or anything like that in your morning. So a lot of times I will actually start with a guided meditation, and most of them I try to make sure that they make me cry, because if I'm releasing any pent up emotion from the previous day, then I'm real clear to start my day. And then we want to have some recharging frequencies. So now we're going to start kind of activating different emotions in your system, and then we're going to refresh them. So we're going to actually give them a grounding. We're going to ground them into the system, and then we rise. From this rise, we get to start creating our routine. Okay, so now as you're moving into that first ritual of your day, so instead of hitting the snooze button, we're going to hit the play button. Remember, we're trying to make all of these tools easily accessible to just do, where you'll have to hit one button, one action that you need to take in order to start all of these things. So the first thing in your playlist is I want you to start with a relax and a release. So I want you to think of some sort of like therapeutic frequencies. I personally use EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. So it's really where like your eyes are moving back and forth, but there's some music that you can listen to where it kind of makes the sound go back and forth between the left and right audio, which actually, when you're in a relaxed state, makes your eyes move, and then that actually helps process anything traumatic or suppressed emotions. There is a more deliberate way of doing this if you were to go to counseling or therapy, but you can find these frequencies and tunes online as well. So when you're setting up your playlist, that might be something to think about. You really want, again, like I said, the therapeutic frequencies, because you do want to process the trauma. You want to let any suppressed emotions or resistant emotions from the previous day come up, so that it helps to kind of just get yourself centered, recentering your brain. When you're in this, I want you to just let your feelings flow. So if you feel like crying, just let the tears roll out. At the beginning, sometimes this might be like a really hard cry. Sometimes it might feel like a lot of anger. Sometimes there might be a lot of weighted emotions flowing through you. The more you start your ritual at the beginning of the day, then the easier these get, and the less suppressed these emotions are, so they start flowing through you faster and easier. The next set is going to be to recharge and refresh. So these are really like activation frequencies. So these can be guided meditations, grounding sounds, just general meditation music, sometimes prayers or mantras, or even just sitting silently for this moment. This right here, after you've released any suppressed emotion, this is where I want you to bring in the manifesting. So I want you to really focus on the vision that you're creating for your future, and make sure that you're feeling it right now in this moment. While you're feeling it, I want you to start amplifying those feelings. Make sure that they're good. If you have tension, make sure you go back to kind of re-release some more. Maybe you might need to add some more release music in there. Then you're going to move on to some rise music. And so these are like rhythmic beats. And this is what kind of starts your routine off. So it's like, some thumping that's going on. It makes you kind of want to get up, makes you want to make your bed, get dressed for your day, things like that. And then you can have a whole playlist for if you want to actually do walking, jogging, running, things like that. But really, the rhythmic beats are just to get you up and get you moving. Movement can even be as simple as journaling, free writing, or drawing. But here's where you're kind of listening and you're kind of taking notes, whether it's internally or externally. You're kind of taking notes on maybe what some of those next steps are for really reaching your manifestation faster. After you have spent your morning being, then now it's time to move into your routine, which is something that you have. So, with your routine, you might want to add something like presentations such as TED Talks, motivational videos, or quick revelations, podcasts, or audiobooks. This is just something that helps get you mentally motivated, helps to inspire you even further as you're beginning to move about your day. And lastly, we will have the do part of the routine, which is your habit or your morning movement or how you're going to act, the action you're going to take. So this is where you might want to take some time to organize your goals, create a list for your day, make sure that when you're doing it from like easy to hard or hard to easy, whichever way. I've heard both ways work. It depends on which way works best for you. And then also the growth. How are you going to stretch yourself? What are you going to gain? What fears are you really facing? Where will you surrender and how will you flow? And your gifts for the day even. Who are you going to help serve? How will you deliver? And how will you observe, honor, or impact others? Remember that these sacred rituals are designed to honor you, to make sure that you are spending time each day with yourself to do that, to connect with yourself internally. The best thing about them is that it's a one-time setup. You create this playlist and you never have to create it again, unless of course you want to adjust it, which means that it's also simple to activate each morning. You roll over before you even get out of bed and you push play. The first 15 minutes of your day are immediately designed to connect with you. And after that, it makes it even easier to integrate. Because once you start doing that every day for a little bit, it becomes second nature just to roll over. You're most likely rolling over and grabbing your phone anyway. Why not roll over and push play?